Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Aidan Ferguson, and today I will be sharing the art and life of the ingenious Zdzisław Beksiński. If I may, allow me to start off with a brief overview. Zdzisław Beksiński was a Polish artist who was renowned for his unique surrealist paintings. Now, while his art does display the ethereal and strange beauty that can be found in traditional surrealism, what sets Beksiński apart from other surrealists such as Salvador Dali and Frida Kahlo is his signature macabre and hopeless aesthetic that can be felt through his various works. As a matter of fact, it is through this signature aesthetic that Beksiński has grown in infamy, earning the nickname the Nightmare Artist. Needless to say, he was undoubtedly a fascinating character that understood the nature of terror. Therefore, in this presentation, I will be discussing his history, his collection of works, and the various media they are found in, as well as the general impact his art has left on myself and the world. Without further ado, Zdzisław Beksiński was born in the city of Sonak, Poland, on February 24, 1929. If you know your world history, then you know that this was around the time of World War II, in which Nazi Germany rose to power and invaded other European nations, including that of Poland. With that in mind, this was what Beksiński would face in his childhood. One can only imagine how terrible it must have been to not only come into being during these dark times, but in the epicenter of the chaos and corruption. It is because of this that many theorize Beksiński's tone and subject matter is, at least partially, based on the atrocities and trauma that he faced from his experience in his early years of life. But more on this later, as it is a surprisingly controversial subject. The first medium of professional art that he would assume was, in fact, not the oil paint that he would eventually be exclusively known for, but photography, a medium that, ironically enough, is founded upon realism above all else. Nonetheless, Beksiński was born with the creative will to distort and abstract reality, thus making him a pioneer of surrealism in photography. This concept was not received with respect, however. In fact, professional artists and critics found his photos to be perversions of the purpose of photography. Alas, this passion would fuel Beksiński to find the medium that would not only reinforce his expression, but would allow his distinctive style to come into fruition. Over the course of the 1970s to 80s, Beksiński would enter his Renaissance era, in which he used oil paint to create grand, extravagant scenes of dystopian and eldritch horror. In reference to what we mentioned before, there isn't really a way to respectfully interpret his work, as it was his belief that art should be perceived by how it was felt and not through the lens of the artist. He was so passionate about this belief that he would leave all of his paintings unnamed to strip them of all forms of association. That said, I believe the strongest consistent theme that makes Beksiński's art so effective is that of visceral emotion. Regardless of subject matter, each painting arouses some sense of deep dread, sadness, or misery. Depending on the symbolism, the core themes of these paintings range from despair, to erotica, to religion, to death. This notion is further supported by Beksiński's love of music, a completely auditory art form that's meaning is found within the listener. From the 1990s to early 2000s, Beksiński started to veer away from the medium of traditional paint in favor of the then novel concept of digital art. While these projects fall short of evoking the sense of unadulterated dread found in his previous art, this era is truly indicative of Beksiński's admirable sense of ambition and willingness to experiment. Unfortunately, this era would mark the end of his career, as he would be murdered in the year 2005 after a heated disagreement with his caretaker's son. After he died, a grand collection of his works were submitted to the Sonak Historical Museum in dedication to his legacy. Speaking of which, many artists, especially of Polish descent, continue to be inspired by Beksiński's work to this day. The Medium, for example, is an indie horror game made by Polish team of developers that utilizes imagery and concepts similar to those expressed by Beksinski. Another example of an artist that Beksinski has inspired happens to be the horror legend Guillermo del Toro, who is renowned for his unique monster design and elaborate use of makeup in filmmaking. To quote Beksinski himself, "I wish to paint in such a manner as if I were photographing dreams." I think this quote is particularly important in understanding the nature of his works. Dreams aren't tangible or vivid. They're unnatural and confusing. Yet photographs are born of reality, a recognizable world of logic and meaning that directly contradicts the world of dreams. As mentioned before, no painting has a recognizable meaning. It each has layers of unique substance and symbolism that crawls upon the viewer's spine. With this theory in mind, I consider Beksinski a definitive example of a surrealist, an artist who mirrors reality but through a broken or distorted lens, familiar enough to recognize, but uncanny and alien in nature. And with all that said, that is the genius of Zdzisław Beksinski. And thus concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching, and take care.